There's this massive thing when you're brought into the world during this generation where you get told that you can be whatever you want to be, you just have to work hard enough and you can achieve anything. But that's a deeply rooted psychological issue that honestly I'm not equipped to deal with, but it did get me thinking about games, which is something that's a little bit more within my knowledge. There are so many games right now that I want to play, and I'm stuck bouncing between different games, and it's making it hard to actually just sit down and finish one, because I just don't know what I want to play. But this really got me reminiscing about when I was a lot younger. I used to get brought a game, usually I would be able to choose it, and then sometimes my parents would just get me something a little bit more random. This would usually be like Christmas or birthdays. But the main thing I found back then, there wasn't a single game that I had that I hadn't finished. Most of the time it was to 100%, others you would just keep replaying when you got to like the boring bits. I look at games like Skyrim and Oblivion. I must have put in over 300 hours on each of these games just sitting there and having a good time. Whereas now, I'll use the example of Dying Light 2. That game came out in February, and I've only managed about 15 hours of the game. I haven't even completed the main story yet. And why? As you grow older, your priorities change, and it's so mad to see. If I was thinking about this 10 years ago, I would probably think that I was absolutely insane by saying that I would get to a point where I wasn't even finishing a game anymore. But now, I'm stuck in this position where there is just too much choice. I don't want to pretend that I'm not in a more privileged position than other people. I do have the opportunity that if there's a game that I want, I will be able to get it. But I think, if anything, that has been something that's more detrimental to me finishing games than originally I probably would have thought. Have you ever felt like you just don't have enough time to play the games that you want? Or that you've been stuck in a loop having so much choice that you've just decided not to play anything? I mean, I have. At this current point in time, my Steam library alone has around 180 games in it. That's not including all the games from different launchers or Xbox Game Pass, PlayStation Now, and the ridiculous amount of games that you just end up getting free from Epic Games for just having a PC. If I look at my Steam library alone, I probably managed to complete around 3% of these games. The backlog of games that I have is great, just so that I know that I will always have something that I can play. But at the same time, it's becoming increasingly more daunting that I have way too many games to play. It seems that when I have so much choice of the games that I want to play, I get stuck on what I want to play, and then I end up resorting to playing something that I've already done 1,000 times, like Skyrim, or jumping on live service games that I really shouldn't be playing as much as I am. It's really great having so much choice in the games that you play, but not so much when you realise that, the new Fortnite season is about to end and you still haven't finished the Battle Pass yet. And yeah, I still play Fortnite, it's not as bad as people make out, I promise, and I'm sorry if that upsets you. But I feel like when you're younger, you have the ability to play whatever you have for as long as you really want. I remember putting in ridiculous amounts of hours into every single Call of Duty up until the end of Modern Warfare 3. From the original trilogy, I'm not from the future. Whereas if I look at how long I've probably played like Vanguard for, I think it's around 5 hours. And that's not just because I found the game terrible. I just haven't had the time to sit and play it whilst there's so much else that I have to do. When there's a shift in your priorities, it becomes harder to achieve things that you want to do. Obviously, you need to prioritise the things in your life that need to happen, like cooking, cleaning, working, and even things that do haunt us, like going to the gym. After all of these things are done and dealt with, you have very little time left over to do the things that you want to do, like play the games that you want. And that's the thing that I find at the moment that's making finishing games that little bit harder. Obviously in there's the ideal thing, which would be playing a game is your job. That way you're managing to finish things and getting to use the time spent doing things that you love, but obviously that's a pipe dream that not many people are able to achieve in this day and age. Then you're also stuck with a conundrum that maybe you wouldn't enjoy it as much if it's a job that you have to do. When it's no longer a choice, is it still as enjoyable? It's a really difficult thing to have to say. There's also the other end of the stick. There are now so many great games being released, and because of the inflation for prices, they're becoming harder and harder to get a hold of, just because of the price. £60 for a brand new title is so expensive compared to how they used to be. But I know that's also down to the fact that games now cost a lot more money to develop. Choice is a problem in all aspects of life, and I think even with just playing games, it still has a massive role in what you can and can't do. I went for a massive change in the type of games that I played a few years ago due to changes in my circumstances, but I want to cover that more in depth another time. Generally, from a psychological point of view, the large majority of people find it hard to make choices from a larger list. So, in a psychology study that I read, it seems that the general rule of thumb is 7 choices. More than that, and the average person would usually begin to find themselves overwhelmed. In a world where you've got 1 or 2 major AAA titles being released each month, and even more indie titles, it does become quite overwhelming to try and make the choice of what is going to be worth not only your precious money, but your time, as that becomes more and more precious as time goes on. Make sure to drop a like on this video, comment and let me know your thoughts. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know, and take it easy.